This Sunday, on episode 37 of Eye on Dependency, where every life is a biography.
Would you judge a man by what he used to be, or his ways of long ago? Instead, let us look at what he is now, and could be tomorrow.
Prison is an institution where offenders are sent to be punished for their crimes. But is it also a place of rehabilitation and restoration? These two men are prime examples that change is possible.
My name is 10SEP23. I was charged with murder at the age of 19. In 1988, I was convicted and sentenced to death. I served 6 years on death row. I had my death sentence commuted in 1994, and ever since I've been serving life imprisonment. This is my story.
I was convicted for murder at the age of 22. I spent 4.5 years on death row. I have been incarcerated for the past 33, going on 34 years. My name is Andrew Douglas. This is my story.
With the assistance of the Programs and Industries Department of the Prison Service, their lives have taken on a new path that can make them valuable contributors to our society. You be the judge. Listen live this Sunday from 10 a.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
If you see a man you know that was bad,
Forever,
turning on your leaf where you should be glad.
so glad.
La, 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 la.
Hola, my name is Elena. Well, it's actually not my real name. You don't really care, do you? All you care about is once you pay your money to my boss that I look pretty, smell nice, smile for you, and let you have good time, enjoying yourself and doing to me whatever you want to do for the money you paid. What you don't see or know is that I don't get any part of the money you paid. My boss takes all of it. I am forced to work, taking as many clients as my boss tells me to. I am beaten, made to take drugs, and I cannot leave this kind of work on my own. I am a victim of human trafficking. Please, por favor, help me.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago, through the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, continues to develop and implement effective policies and procedures to prevent and suppress human trafficking. To date, the National Task Force has developed 2 national plans of action against the crime of trafficking in persons. Trinidad and Tobago adopts a 4-pronged approach in its response to human trafficking. 1. Effective identification of victims and witnesses. 2. Prevention of human trafficking. 3. Protection of victims and witnesses. And 4. Prosecution of suspected traffickers. In the Ministry of National Security, we established a specialized unit called the Counter-Trafficking Unit to lead and manage Trinidad and Tobago's response to human trafficking. The Counter-Trafficking Unit works closely with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Immigration Division, and international law enforcement agencies to aggressively and proactively investigate and prosecute suspected human traffickers. Human trafficking is a serious crime. Rest assured, the government of Trinidad and Tobago and its agencies remain committed in the fight against human trafficking and will respond with immediate effect when the need arises.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome, and the world by extension, welcome to our Dependency, right here on I-95.5 FM, live on the Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Gus. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
And thank you so much once again for another Sunday. We thank God for another Sunday to sit here and educate you. And remember, the focus of our Dependency is to educate. We don't support criminal activity. We don't judge the ones who do, and of course in support of the victims as well. We keep everyone in mind. These programs are for you to learn something from the participants. In studio with us this morning we have some folks from the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service with us. Good morning, Ms. Agard.
A pleasant good morning to you, Kat, Natasha, to everyone that's listening to us here. I want to say a pleasant good morning to the Commissioner of Prisons and his executives, and to all my fellow officers that are actually listening to us on the radio today. Good morning to each and every one.
Right, and Mr. Steele is with us here as well. Morning, Mr. Steele. I haven't heard from him for a while, but he's right here. And there's another officer accompanying. Thank you all very much. And the guests of honor today, Andrew Douglas and Gujarat Sipasad, Sipas as he's called. And you will hear from these gentlemen this morning again as they take us on a journey through their lives. Now, one correction I would like to make, or clarification, the promo, and I was reminded by Mr. Bruce very sternly, and I think it's something that we should clear up with regard to the promo, what we said in the promo, that people, we could have interpreted like that people were sent to prison to be punished. And apart from the cat o' nine tail, really don't punish people in prison. I don't think they've used that again anyhow. And so people in prison are not punished. It's as a result of, Natasha, punishment.
Yes.
You know, that's the punishment they got for the crimes that they committed, and they are sent to prison to be in the care of the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service.
As punishment, not for punishment.
Not for punishment, as punishment. All right? So I'm happy to clear that up, and I again thank Mr. Bruce for alerting to what could be misinterpreted by the public. So far, we have been able to reach a number of people, and in this program today, we're also going to, remember we spoke about a fundraiser for victims against human trafficking, for the survivors of human trafficking, and for our Dependency, with collaboration with IMAX and the Task Force Working Group and Human Trafficking Working Group, Counter Trafficking Unit, CTU, and of course the Ministry of National Security. There's a fundraiser to be held at IMAX on the 24th of September. We'll be showing you that trailer here this morning. So you'll have an idea what you're going to see. Is that movie called The Sound of Freedom. And we plan to make this event mostly for different arms of the protective service, so they could send their members to see this film, because it's a lesson on child trafficking. And then, of course, we'll have some tickets for you, the members of the public. And come next Sunday, God's willing, we give away some of those tickets to some of you who could answer some questions on human trafficking. You get to come and see. For those of you interested, the tickets are priced at $120, and we'll tell you how, if you're interested, book your ticket. Come and spend an afternoon, Republic Day, at IMAX. Meet and greet each other, supporters of our Dependency.
IMAX Port of Spain. And
IMAX Port of Spain, One Roadblock Place.
Ingrid and her team at Cinema One for giving us this opportunity as well to use IMAX to raise funds, not just for Independency, but for, as God said, survivors of trafficking.
Yes. So and that is it, and that is in collaboration with the Counter Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago, and as I said, you will hear more about it, but you will see the trailer today. What you expected to see at that movie has been internationally acclaimed, and it's a very good lesson on child trafficking. And it's a true story, actually, from how they sold it. And then we'll, of course, hook up with the Commissioner of Prisons before we wrap up. And there's a video we want to show you of a police officer that went viral this week. I agree with him. He's making an appeal to parents. Very touching video. I've never seen a police officer that close to tears. He tried his best to hold back the tears, but what he sees at the beginning of school, 3 days, as he said, and fights evermore. he has a concern that we'd like to share with you today. So we're going to take this break, and when we return, we're going to hear from Gujarat first. And you be the judge, folks. These are young men. They're still young, and they can still make a genuine contribution to society. And this is what we hope upon release that they can bring to us. They have a lot to share. They have between them 60 years of experience of the penal institutions in Trinidad and Tobago. 60 years, that's invaluable. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. Remember, you can join us on our Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel, or turn up your radio. We'll be back.
So as we wait for...
Let's start with CPAS, right, Natasha?
All right, fine.
Yeah, so Gujarat, welcome to Dependency, and thank you for allowing us to speak with you so that you can share some experiences with Trinidad and Tobago. Tell us about yourself. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Thank you, Mr. God, for having me here. Of course, good morning, everybody. And of course, good morning to our wonderful audiences outside here, locally, regionally, and of course, internationally.
Before you go on, folks, I want to remind you that Gujarat is also a graduate of Rise Maximum Radio.
Yes.
When you listen,
when you hear the dulcet
when you listen,
tones.
you'll understand why.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well,
sorry.
thanks to you, because you were there, of course, you were one of the pioneers. In fact, it's what all started with you and, of course, Miss Natasha. Of course, you know, but of course, I need to let our audience know that I am a Guyanese national. And of my 58 years, of those, I have spent only 18 years in Guyana. So the rest I've spent in Trinidad and Tobago. Being a Guyanese, growing up there in Guyana, it was good. Living in Guyana, of course, a lot of people know what Guyana was in the 60s, 70s, and of course the early 80s. And I grew up in a village called Leonora, two names, Leonora, and in a sugar plantation where there was a sugar mill. So I grew up with my parents, mother and father. Luckily, I had them both, and I have one brother. I was the elder of the two. So growing up wasn't so difficult. My father, he was a boiler operator, and my mother was a seamstress. So I will say I had a fairly well-groomed childhood growing up. I can remember far back in my primary school days, not so much in my nursery school days. And then after primary, I wrote my common entrance there in primary school. At the age of 12, I passed to a school called St. John's High School, a 5-year school, and then I graduated there. Upon graduation in Guyana, the thing about it, as I said just now, life was difficult in Guyana. Being a young graduate, it was difficult to get a job. So I stayed a year looking about, interviews and so on, and still I didn't get anything. However,
so what year are we talking about during that time in Guyana? Because we know Guyana, we heard stories from growing up in Trinidad and Tobago. What year around are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about in the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
So I started high school in the late 70s. So about the thing about it, after graduation, I didn't get a job because it was difficult to get a job in Guyana. Life was a bit hard. But fortunately, my parents continued to work, and I was still hoping to get a better life. Guyana didn't present that opportunity then. I had 3 aunts living in Trinidad, so there was an opportunity for me to come to Trinidad. I was invited. So when I was invited, I grasped the opportunity and I came immediately. When I came to Trinidad, I immediately fell in love with Trinidad. Because when I look at Trinidad, everything almost was the same. The culture, the tradition, the people, the cuisine, of course, with the exception of curry chicken. Yeah. And chicken curry. All right, so it was like living home away from home.
Yeah.
And I decided I want to make a future in Trinidad and Tobago. Being young, I was vibrant, I was on fire. And then I know that I can make a future in Trinidad and Tobago.
How old were you then?
I was 18 years of age.
Yeah.
And would you share what part of Trinidad you settled in or you came to initially?
In Tunapuna.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of my aunts was living there.
Right.
But eventually from Tunapuna, I went to live in Curup because I didn't stay there.
So you were almost neighbors with Andrew?
Oh yeah, Andrew, we are neighbors. We are neighbors. And then it so happened that we are neighbors in prison as well.
Are you kidding?
So I think that is predestined.
So you all were neighbors?
And then we are going to be free together, and we are hoping that we shall continue to be neighbors apart.
Yes, yes.
Because we'll be doing our own thing,
Yes.
Wow.
So I got a job eventually because my aunt was living here. My uncle-in-law also, he was also here, and he was working in the construction department. I got a job. Thing about it, I didn't know nothing about construction. But I learned because I was young, just out from school, so I learned quickly. I worked, and at that time, in the 80s in Trinidad, a young man at the age of 18, working for $100 a day, that was a lot of monies. So I had no monies, I'm working, and I'm seeing a future in Trinidad and Tobago. It so happened in 85, January, the construction boom actually came to an end. And we decided we will have to move on to something else. In Guyana, most of the schools, you learn a trade. Where I was going, St. John's High, I learned lettercraft. I learned shoemaking. So my uncle also did the same thing. So we decided we are going to go into a shoe business. The monies I saved, I invested into the business because we got someone to also assist financially in the business. So all the monies I saved, I pooled it into that business. Unfortunately, it is what actually led to the incident that brought me to prison. So it was like when this incident happened, I had just turned 19 years of age. So it was like the whole world was crumbling around me. 18 years, leave Guyana, coming to build a future. And then suddenly everything was nice, everything was good. And then like my whole world was crumbling. So imagine a 19-year-old in a foreign land, that's the only people I know also were faced with the quality of situation we didn't know how to handle.
Yeah.
So it was the end of one life. At the time the incident happened, in my mind it was the end of a life, not knowing that it was actually the beginning of a better life that I will later on discover. When I was charged with murder at the age of 19, actually I had just turned 19 years of age, there were so many things that were going through my mind. And then my aunts who were here, they migrated because they could not have taken it. So it is like I alone now living in a country, in a situation, I didn't have any families. So imagine you are living in a country that you don't have any family supports. So being in prison is one thing, being in a foreign prison is something quite different.
So after you, the incident happened and you were arrested, your family sort of abandoned you?
No, they didn't abandon me. You know, how it was a kind of complex situation. They could not have stayed in Trinidad because there was a stigma. In those days, I think you may remember how Guyanese were viewed. Guyanese charged with the murder. Guyanese has his relatives. So they decided to move on. So they migrated abroad. So I am here now, alone, in a foreign land, depending solely on the state of Trinidad and Tobago.
So this incident happened with you and friends, or you alone?
Two other persons.
Would you say it was influence, low self-esteem, peer pressure?
Being young, it wasn't influence, it wasn't peer pressure, but it is just that at the time, didn't know anything better being a young person, even though I had a quality of background. It was an incident. I was simply faced with a situation that at the time there was no out. Okay?
Now, Mr. Steele, or Mr. God, as you closer to the microphone, you could explain why Mr. Sipasad cannot go into detail. Mr. Steele?
At this moment, he is seeking a resentencing before the court. So he cannot go directly into his matter this time and discuss the personal because it's still before the court.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so now being charged with murder, being in prison now, facing that murder charge. Of course, the trial took about 3 years.
No, before we go to the trial, give us that idea of how you felt about you having been charged for murder. Who did you blame for it? Or what would you explain? What did you say to yourself when that happened? Is that you're mad at somebody or you're mad at yourself?
Presently, in fact, when it happened,
a
few years after, I was mad at myself because as I grew and I got more experience, I decided things could have done differently in every situation, whether bad or good. Mostly, if something bad happens, there is always an alternative. Lack of experience, maybe lack of knowledge, can make you do things that afterwards you regret. It was an incident. It was an incident, and we explained everything to the court, what actually transpired. So it wasn't something that we didn't know about. We explained to the court, so the world knew exactly what happened. And up to this day, of course, it is regrettable. And as I talk about it, I'm still feeling remorseful because someone died, and the person didn't have to. Okay, I mean, no one deserved to die, but someone died. But at the end of the day, it could have been prevented. It was an incident. It wasn't something that I planned to do.
Right.
No, as I said, we explained everything in court.
And let me ask, as I have asked Andrew and Natasha as well, in terms of the criminal justice system, were the victims or the relative of the victim involved in that process at all? Did they testify? Did you have an opportunity subsequent to your conviction, have an opportunity to reach out to them? What role did they play as far as you know?
A few years after we tried to reach out to the victim families, we even made a request to the welfare department to arrange a meeting if that was possible. We also asked for letters to be taken. That was materialized because we wanted to let the victim family know how we felt. Because at the end of it, I didn't only destroy the victims and the victims' family life. My family life was also destroyed.
Yep.
Because after the incident, my mother fell ill. She never recovered and she died while I was in prison. Also my father. So I didn't see my mother when she died. I didn't see my father. So in the process, everyone was affected.
Yeah.
The victim, the perpetrator, families.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with Gujarat Sipasad and in studio as well, Andrew Douglas. Both got death sentenced and was commuted to life eventually. And you're hearing from Gujarat right now telling his story. A Guyanese national came here, got himself caught up as a youngster, and he's
been in prison ever since.
Been in prison ever since. And the youngsters who are listening this morning, God, I really hope that you all understand what it is. And we've seen it every day, gentlemen. 20, 19, 18, before the court for murder.
I know, we have these stories here. Last week we did Natasha Dillian, who came in at the age of 17.
Yeah.
Douglas came in at the age of 18, and Gujarat at 19. So for the young ones that are listening to us on the outside, this is reality, choices and consequences.
Yep.
So I hope that they are listening, and it will touch them as youngsters.
To how to value life.
To value life, correct.
And life
freedom.
is valued,
And
yes.
freedom.
Because you can make yourself as busy as you have been, as these two gentlemen have been in prison. You can dedicate your life to turning your life around in prison, but it is prison. It's not a normal life. And I'm sure if you give these two gentlemen the opportunity to go back in time, they would not be here with us today. Let's make this a lesson to all of us without having to say if I didn't know.
No, Garth, I remembered we have a motivational team that goes out to the schools. And we visited a school in San Fernando. And one of the girls there, it was actually her birthday. And she stood up and she said, we sang happy birthday to her. And we asked her what is her age. And she said she was 17 years old. And I looked at her and I called Natasha. And I said, I want you to visualize this. This is Natasha Dillion at 47 years old. You are 17. Natasha was your age when she was incarcerated. Her freedom was taken away completely at the age of 17. She looked at Natasha and then the reality, like it just kicked in there. At this young age, I could be incarcerated by one mistake and spend the rest of my life behind prisons.
And miss 30-something Christmases, birthdays, you name it, you miss all of that. Folks, let's go to a break. And when we return, we continue this journey. You listen.
How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom. Felt good. You have been at this for 12 years.
My country, 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale. It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
For Homeland Security, we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
And yet somehow you have failed to bring me one real-world lead.
It's over, Tim. Close up and come back home.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
South of that river is all rebel territory. No one goes in. What if this was your daughter? So, she's gone.
Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
Hola, my name is Elena. Well, it's actually not my real name. You don't really care, do you? All you care about is once you pay your money to my boss that I look pretty, smell nice, smile for you, and let you have good time. Enjoying yourself and doing to me whatever you want to do for the money you paid. What you don't see or know is that I don't get any part of the money you paid. My boss takes all of it. I am forced to work, taking as many clients as my boss tells me to. I am beaten, made to take drugs, and I cannot leave this kind of work on my own. I am a victim of human trafficking. Please, por favor, help me.
On Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the On Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This is I on Dependency, and thank you for tuning in on I-95.5 FM and on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning to you.
Right, so good. Let's go to the other part of the story now. So you've been sentenced to death.
In 1988 January, I was sentenced to death.
Mm-hmm.
And
how did that feel in the court when you heard that?
That is inexplicable. No matter how much you try to explain that, no one will understand it. It is a situation you have to experience yourself to actually know. And again, I want to stress that, and I like what you said just now, if the young people are listening, you are living, and then suddenly, so your whole world is crumbling around you. Now, death row, from the very first day I was sent to death row, actually I was numb the very first day. When the sentence was passed, I didn't even know how I reached the prison. All I know that I was placed in the vehicle and I ended up in Port of Spain prison.
No, I always ask everybody this question. When you heard sentenced to death by hanging, right? That's what they say, right? You remember the words?
Until he is dead or something.
No, let me explain that. When the judge, the juror said that, okay, guilty, it was then immediately I went numb. Right. And from that, then, to the point I reached the prison, it was like the thought was just all over the place.
I was always asking you, but you in PSL?
No, I didn't. Thankfully, I didn't do that.
I would have done that.
But it is not something that think about it. Yes. You are now being told that you are sentenced to death. How does one react to something to that?
I know.
So
only when you just see mouth moving after that.
Yeah. So you cannot really assimilate. You cannot think. Nothing happening actually. Your body is numb. So when I reached in Port of Spain, I was placed in a cell, and thankfully I slept through the whole night, because it was an evening when I was sentenced to death. I slept through the whole night. In the morning, then of course the superintendent and so on, everybody had the process, came and they told me about.
When you woke up, when your eyes opened the next morning,
and you realized where
how did you
were.
process that?
Well, I was conscious. I was conscious that I am now on death row. And now it is a transition now. You are actually moving from a normal person to something else. Let me try to see how best I can put this in words.
Please.
You are like me, of course I was young. So I am now growing up fast. I have to deal with a situation that I've never experienced. So I have to come to grip and deal with that.
And you're dealing with this on your own as well. You don't have any family to guide you through this.
No families, and that is why it was difficult for me, because you were hoping that your family will come and you will experience a degree of comfort when they are there. But because family presence is important to a prisoner.
Let's go back a bit, right? For the person who's listening, I know what it's like to open my eyes the next day, hoping that I was having a bad dream. You know, because you slept whole night. I slept like every 10 minutes. Wake up, go back to sleep, wake up, go back to sleep. But waking up the next morning and hearing the sights, hearing the sounds, and seeing, because now it's daytime, I want people to visualize that, opening your eyes in that environment, in a very strange world that, you know, it's like almost landing on the moon. I want people to grasp that.
Okay, and again I want to reiterate, if the young people are listening to this, if you are charged with a murder, you are sentenced and convicted to death, then you are placed in an environment about 8 by 8. You are in a cell now, and that is your home until something happens that will take you out of that situation. So there I was placed, surrounded by these walls, concrete walls, one bed, a table, a wooden table, a wooden bench, and that's about it.
Big
so,
like this room?
No, smaller than this.
Yes, a little smaller than this.
Okay. Yeah. The studio smaller?
And this is about 10 by 12. Yeah, smaller than this. So if you are not claustrophobic, you could develop claustrophobia.
Do you have a window? Can you see outside?
There wasn't a window. There was a vent about 1 feet by 2 feet. That's about it there. And they were bars. So the little air coming through that. And then, of course, there was the gate. So, waking up that morning, I knew I was, of course, in death row. And as I said, you are not prepared for that. You are not prepared for a life that you have never experienced. You're not prepared to face a life where every single day from then on, you are actually faced with the thought of death. That is hanging over you, thinking that, okay, now I'm sentenced to death. And of course, I didn't know what the processes were, the legal processes, but I knew that there would have been an appeal. Now, as time went by, as I was visited by my lawyers, it started to become a little easier.
I was just about to ask you, was it legal aid or did family supply a lawyer for you?
Family abroad retained a lawyer. My family retained a lawyer. So the lawyer visited, and of course there was an appeal file. Now, that gives a degree of hope. Now, as long an appeal is filed and you tell yourself, okay, that there is a possibility you can win your case, there is hope. So it makes it a little easier. That is when things became normal for me again. Normal in the sense that, okay, I'm now in death row. I'm awaiting my appeal, hoping that I shall win it. Now, in those days, of course, when you're death row, there is no program. The only thing that you have at your disposal is a little reading material, not too many. The reading material also in our days were restricted. There will be one paper provided by the authority, and everybody has to read that one paper. So if it started early in the morning,
one newspaper,
in the evening, I might get a read of it. And then, of course, you're allowed 2 books. And the thing about death row, those of us who are literate, you actually drown yourself in reading. So sometime in the evening, you might start a novel with about 300 pages of fiction. You start at about 6, and you will read until you finish it the next morning. But there's nothing else to do. Those of us who are young, we exercise. Because also, as you know, it's an outlet of stress. It's an emotional outlet as well. So we exercise. So for those of us who are young on death row, we read, those who are literate, and we exercise.
Now, what time would you get, or did you get to exercise while on death row? And how often would you get that opportunity?
You are only allowed 1 hour of hearing. So the rest of the 23 hours are yours. You can do what you want with that in your cell.
In your cell.
You can exercise all the time if you want. You read. Now, as the
TV, radio?
No TV. There was one radio. Mm-hmm. And there were only about 3 stations at that time.
In your cell or central radio?
The central radio. Mm-hmm. Central radio provided by the prison authorities.
And your food is brought to you, you know?
Food is brought to you. Remember, the only time you leave that cell is for when you are allowed to go for hearing. And if you have to go for a visit, the visit room was away from the cell. So that is the only time. And apart from that, if you have to go to the clinic,
right,
those are the times.
And if you have to shower, brush your teeth?
Well, there's also the shower. You leave your cell to go to the shower. Right. You also brush. You could do that in the washroom as well. But you have to do the other thing in your cell because there was a pail. All right? Now, as time went by, and I began to read, and there were some supportive officers. And I must mention this. Being young, they were sympathetic. Encourage, keep holding on. And in those days, I can mention the names like Mr. Wilson, former commissioner, Mr. Stewart. Those were the persons who I had known. You also had Mr. Martinez. Those were the persons who were there in my days. Now, I also want to say this, who also played a very major part in I being positive in our system. When Mr. Ramuta, our present commissioner, joined the work, I was on death row. And somehow we saw this young man, and personally he will always say hello and hi and good afternoon, good morning, how you're doing. And eventually, as time went by, we built a kind of bond. He will come and he will talk. What he didn't know at that time, he was counseling me. always giving me some positive advice. Sometimes you'll ask what kind of books you're reading. Keep reading. Keep the hope. Keep praying. So I continue. So when you have these supportive persons around, it gives you that hope. So I continue.
Were there any persons executed while you were on death row?
Not while I was on death row. There were persons who were read out to be executed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there wasn't anyone who was executed at my time. Oh, yeah, and
when you say read out, explain to,
okay,
to the audience.
Normally, if you are to be executed, the president will send a warrant to the Commissioner of Prison. The Deputy Commissioner of Prison comes to where you are, and he is the person who reads out the warrant for you to be executed. So, if it is brought on a Thursday, you shall be executed on the following Tuesday. If it is brought on a Tuesday, you shall be executed on a Thursday. So imagine, you are being read an execution document today for next 3-4 days. What is happening to you there?
Correct.
You're actually killing the person before you actually kill the person.
Yeah.
So all these stress going through
and
your mind.
Everybody who is on death row is hearing this warrant being read.
Yes, and now I remember in one situation there was a guy who was read out to be executed right before I was sleeping, and because at that time I had lost my local appeal, and I remember when they came to read that guy out, I thought they was coming to read me out, and I want the young people especially to hear this. I was by my gate and there was an iron bar, and I gripped the iron bar like this. They came and they read that guy out, and when they read he out, they left, and I continued to hold on to these two iron bars, and there was the guy who was sleeping opposite me. Naresh, what happened? It's like I wasn't focusing, but he saw something was happening. And then I came back to myself, and I'm trying to prise my hands off these two iron bars. And only one I could have gotten off. And eventually, when I got this one off, I prized the other one off, and I went to sleep. So these are the circumstances when one is on death row, you experience.
And they read the warrant for the person loud enough for everybody to hear?
Well, you are there in a small environment,
right,
and everybody hears. So we're asking the question whether it is something deliberate. It is something provocative.
Perhaps.
That, you are being read out to be executed. They are telling you that, okay, you shall die at certain time, at certain date. So those young people who are inclined to commit crime, brothers, if you're listening what I'm saying here, there is a better life than you have chosen. There is a better life than the one you think that there is the only one for you. So being on death row is not something that I am going to ask for anyone to really experience. And I'm hoping that the authorities will understand. If someone is convicted to death, if the process is legal and that person has to be executed, let it be done. Quickly. But when a person have to wait 10 and 15 years and then be told that he will be executed, as I said, you die, of course we die every day, but they are hastening the process until they actually killed you. So I was talking about my progress on death row. I read, and I continue constructively, and it wasn't difficult, because I came from a quality of background. Thankfully, I had a quality of education, so it wasn't difficult for me to continue in the same vein.
So you spent how many years on death row?
6 years on death row.
6 years, and they appealed, and was it time for them now because of the 6 years spent? Because there are some people who spent more time on death row and they were community life after that.
Yes.
What was the difference?
Okay, you remember in 1993 there was a judgment from Privy Council, the Patrick Morgan judgment? Okay, based on that judgment, those of us who were on that row in the 90s had our death sentence commuted, because we had already, the judgment was those who have been on death row 6 years and more shall have his or her death sentence commuted to life imprisonment. The thing about it, we were the first persons who had our death sentences commuted to life imprisonment. But guess what? The judgment was life imprisonment. Privy Council was quite specific in their word. You shall have your death sentence commuted to life imprisonment. When my death sentence was commuted, do you know what the wording read? commuted to the rest of your natural life. So there you are seeing an inclusion. So they are actually telling you, okay, I couldn't kill you then, so then you have to die in prison. So there was an inclusion of the natural. So now, as I speak to you, there were 3 different sentences out of that one sentence. My brother Douglas, he was given 75 years. And the judgment never said anything about 75 years. So I was given natural life imprisonment. My brother here was given 75 years. When they discovered they were making mistakes, then they eventually corrected a number of years after, and then they give a number of guys life imprisonment. Now, as I speak to you, Douglas, of course, you'll hear a story. We are in a different category from those guys who have spent more than 6 years on death row. They are having their sentence commuted and so on, and they are having resentencing. We are also having our life sentence, reviewed as well. So coming back to being on death row, reading, exercising, of course, having the hope that I shall win my appeal. When I lost my local appeal, it then gets harder because Privy Council wasn't actually a guarantee that you would have won your case there. So again, it becomes difficult for the condemned person. When you have your local appeal, you live with the hope that you shall win your local appeal. When you lost a local appeal, you are back to square one that you may not leave death row. Thankfully, for Pratt and Morgan, we had our death sentences commuted. So when I had my death sentence commuted in 1994 January, I now was taken off death row, and I spent 9 months in the convicted section. And eventually, I made a request to start to work in the prison. In those days, those of us who were brought down from death row, there wasn't anything for us to do. No work, no nothing. So they told us, no, that you're not going to work. Fortunately, I don't know, I'm not going to say this luck, because, and I'm going to tell you briefly, there was a plan. There was a providential plan that everything was leading towards that. So I began to work. I was given the opportunity by our former Deputy Commissioner of Prison, Mr. Lennox Watson, if you remember his name. So he chose myself and 2 other persons to work in the system. I was working in the property room and reception, the reception department. And I worked for 6 years there, from 1994 to 99. Eventually, the maximum security prison was commissioned. So all lifers would have been transferred. So I was transferred from Port of Spain prison to the maximum security prison in April 99. We were also restricted when we were transferred there. We weren't involved in no programs, no school, not anything. But we began to know that you just can't have me doing nothing. But so 99 December, former Commissioner of Prison, Mr. Alexander decided, no, well, these lifers have to do something. And he decided, okay, that are we going to have a program, a Christmas program, so you guys will get involved. And that was the beginning of my involvement in constructive program and rehabilitation program at the prison. And I started out in January 2000, and I never looked back. And from then to now, I continue to work in the system. I work in the educational department. I'm a librarian. I was trained as a radio broadcaster. I was trained as a mentor. I was in the band. I spent a number of years in the band as well, playing music and so on. So, and apart from that, I also did a number of tutor courses. So I taught for a number of years.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency and the voice of Gujarat. Oh my God, excuse me. We're hearing now, excuse me. The voice you're hearing now is Mr. Gujarat C. and he's telling us about his time on death row. He's Guyanese national, and he's here now. And he used the time, he let the time serve him by doing something positive. And we'll see, we have a short video of him in the library. He says he's a librarian. He'll tell us how that hookup at Nallis went. And you'll say from Andrew, we have a little video of Andrew as well and the work he has done in prison. Andrew, remember, was here a few weeks ago, and he'll just recap his journey. He too was on death row, and so we're going to take a break. After this break, we're going to hear from Andrew, and you will see what both of them are doing. And the big question is, upon release, what can they do to contribute to eradicating or at least getting a hold or an understanding of the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago? What contribution can they
Not
make?
only that, what contribution can they make to society? We don't expect them to solve crime, right? We
Right.
expect them to integrate and to become citizens again and take up the role of, and that I think is the more pertinent question in terms of the skills that they have learned while incarcerated. How can they be used, and how can society now see them as not murderers, not ex-convicts, but men who can make a positive contribution to the society and help us all to grow.
I know some of you don't like to hear that, but sometimes, they could say, how is a man doing some of another man's mistakes and wrong choices? This is what we hope you young people learning from this here this morning about making the right decision, because I've tried to tell them, once the police come and they arrest you, whether you're home or wherever you are at the time,
It's very different after that.
that's the last time you're going to see anybody you're familiar with or be around anybody you're familiar with. You may meet one of those people you know in prison, but it's the last time you're going to see a PlayStation. It's the last time you're going to see your bed. It's the last time you're going to wear your clothes. It's the last time you're going to see your gate, your front gate. Think about that.
And even the last time you will see some of the key people in your life, your mother, your sisters, your children.
It's the last time, unless they come to visit you in prison. You're listening to Dependency. We'll be back. Stay right there.
How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom. Felt good. You have been at this for 12 years.
My country, 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale. It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
For Homeland Security, you know we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
And yet somehow you have failed to bring me one real-world lead.
It's over, Tim. Close up and come back home.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
South of that river is all rebel territory. No one goes in.
What if this was your daughter?
So, she's gone. Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago, through the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, continues to develop and implement effective policies and procedures to prevent and suppress human trafficking. To date, the National Task Force has developed 2 national plans of action against the crime of trafficking in persons. Trinidad and Tobago adopts a 4-pronged approach in its response to human trafficking. 1. Effective identification of victims and witnesses. 2. Prevention of human trafficking. 3. Protection of victims and witnesses. And 4. Prosecution of suspected traffickers. In the Ministry of National Security, we established a specialized unit called the Counter-Trafficking Unit to lead and manage Trinidad and Tobago's response to human trafficking. The Counter-Trafficking Unit works closely with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Immigration Division, and international law enforcement agencies to aggressively and proactively investigate and prosecute suspected human traffickers. Human trafficking is a serious crime. Rest assured, the government of Trinidad and Tobago and its agencies remain committed in the fight against human trafficking and will respond with immediate effect when the need arises.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays, at 10 a.m., and exclusively, on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. And those of you on YouTube, we thank you very much for joining us. All of you, Rena, Edward, the whole crew. I see you all, and I hope you all will join us on Republic Day and support the initiative with the screening of the Sound of movie, the trailer you have been seeing. And while you're on Facebook, remember to like and subscribe to the channel, please, because we want you all to be part of the next journey that we have up ahead. Remember, the screening is on the 24th, Republic Day, IMAX. We're gathering at 4. Everybody come. Let's meet each other. Come and we're hoping as well that the different arms of protective service would support it, so that if you're interested in any tickets, please send us an email at irondependency@gmail.com so we can book your tickets for you. We could call 756-6337. That's 756-6337 to book your tickets early. People started doing it already, and we thank those who booked theirs. Annette and the whole Adam and all of you on Facebook as well. We hope to see you on the 24th. Come, let's learn something on that day from the movie Sound of Freedom, right? So we hope to see you all. In studio, once again, we have Gujrat Prasad, Andrew Douglas, Miss Agard and Steele from Rise Maximum Radio, of course, members of Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service. And Miss Agard, you wanted to say something before we continue with Mr. C. Prasad?
Oh God, listen to, we call him Narish story. And we have to big him up. He came from Rise Maximum Radio, one of us, well spoken. And you have listened to him telling his story from being incarcerated, how it was for him. And you're seeing that it did not make him bitter. Mm-hmm. Correct, Narish?
That is
true. It did not
make
you bitter. You're showing that here, despite the situation I'm in, this is how I have been progressing since I've been behind bars.
So you didn't hate the system and
no.
You hate the magistracy, the judiciary and the vexer. You accepted your fate. You accepted you made your choice.
Oh yes, you see, one needs to understand that from the time you have done something wrong, the healing begins by accepting. And that is what I did. I didn't blame anybody. And I must say that how much the prison authorities supported me. My progress began in 2000. I'm talking about my educational development and my whole perspective. I got the opportunity to be involved constructively in the program, and I didn't really lose those opportunities. I grasped them all. So I remember one time, being trained as a tutor, I was teaching, I was in charge of the library, I was in the band, I was in the Bible class, I was a business coordinator. So I found time to do all these things because I decided that there shall be one day when I'll be freed. And I want to make myself marketable. Apart from that, I also want to assist. That is very important, to assist wherever I can.
Now, you hook up with Nalis, or Nalis hooked up with you. Tell us, how did that happen? We're going to show people that video in a while with you as librarian. But how did that happen? When did that happen?
Okay, when I started educational department, there was a library. At the maximum security prison, in the school, there was a library. No one actually wanted to be there. When I said no one wanted to be there, and inmates, because they decided that was too much work. I decided, no, that's okay, I'm going to take it. So I began to work in the library, apart from teaching. So I used to split the time to be in the library and teaching. Now,
You taught as well in the prison?
Yes.
What did you teach?
I taught adult literacy also for a short while, CXC, English and Social Studies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So teaching and working in the library, eventually Nalis decided that they are going to take over the library. Nalis came, they partnered with the system. What they did, they trained me professionally according to the Dewey Decimal System. And at the end, I didn't know that they would have paid me. So when they throw it to me, well, of course, you shall be paid is typing $15 an hour. I knew it wasn't luck. I knew God's purpose was being fulfilled because I eventually became a Christian. I was baptized in 2000. Of course, I must say thanks to Pastor Wilma Kelly and, of course, Pastor Patrick Kelly. They were the ones who were there, and, of course, Pastor Parks and all the other religious buddies who partnered with the system. They were also part of my development. So Nalis began to pay me. So I worked. I was being paid. And of all the persons in prison, think about it, I was chosen. I was the one chosen. So I know that there is a purpose why I was being paid this stipend to run the library.
Before we go on, Mr. Balrup, I want to thank you very much. He said Balrup listening from Freeport, and Balrup should know about sound because he told us, please know the audio levels between advertisements, guests, and hosts are at different levels. Thank you, Mr. Balrup. I hope our producer here hears that and he will make the adjustments accordingly. And Evelyn Edwards and Good Morning, Garth and Natasha, and the guests, they really enjoying this conversation. We thank you very much. Christine Kenisha Pompey from Southwest, I guess that's Southwest region of CCC. Thank you so much there for joining us, and I hope you're learning something. And all of you, Joan and Mr. Balrup, Edward, we hope to see you all on the 24th to see the Sound of Freedom with us. All right, so let's go to the video then, because now...
But before we go, just 1 minute, I want to, if those who in prison listening right now, I want to remind you guys, there are always the opportunity to join the programs. There are all the opportunities. Join the program, become marketable, become progressive, make yourself somebody. And there is always the chance of you making a better decision. There is always the opportunity to do something good. You know, and before we close, I want to remind our listeners, Mandela made a statement once. He said, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is the difference we have made in the lives of others will determine the significance of the life we will lead. And I am saying that we all have a purpose. Humanity has a purpose. We weren't placed here by guess. We all have a purpose to fulfill. And I'm asking the young people today, recognize the purpose, fulfill it.
Thank you, brother. You walk with your guitar. We hope you could pull a few strings.
Well,
for us
yeah, the
before
guitar
you
is there, and of course, I'll play. But if you don't mind,
let's go to the video first. Let's see the video of.
While that is playing, we will
Mr. Gujarat Prasad in the library, and.
Borrow this one? Yes, sir. This is a nice. You like football, Duncan? Yes, sir. Okay, well, you know the procedure, right? You have the of course, if you want to extend it, just bring it back. I'm going to renew it for another 7 days. Right? Of course, sleeping in G. You'll have your app already have your so when you take up the books, don't let nobody, because if the person damages the book, who are not responsible. Right? So make sure you return it just as well. You play all the best, John Ross. Yes, sir.
Oui. So what we just witnessed here is Seepers in at his desk at the maximum security prison. You have a lot of books there too. It's just his workplace. Do prisoners access the library a lot?
Oh yes. We have the education department where the students do come on a daily basis, and then apart from those who aren't in the programs, also appropriate the library. So we have a large percentage of inmates who do appropriate the library.
Right. Okay. So before you play, right? Let's talk to Andrew before, because I want people to understand too. Now Andrew Douglas, now he has a very thick book here, folks. I cannot share everything with you.
Very thick.
Yes,
CV
Andrew
as well.
Paul Douglas, Maximum Security Prisoner, Education and Training, CXE, English, Grade 3, and this 2004 to 2005. Social Studies, Grade 3, Visual Arts, Grade 3, Visual Religious, Grade 3, Principles of Business, Grade 4, School Leaving, English Language, Composition, Comprehension, Distinction in that, Mathematics, Past Mathematics. I wish I could say this.
Correct, same.
General Paper Distinction, Vocational Training, Certificate of Participation for the Technical and Vocation Education and Training from the National Examination Council, Progress and Achievements in Prison, Calden Empowerment Resources Associates Empowerment Program, Excellence Award in recognition of the most outstanding change agent. That's in August 25th, 2008. Participant in the Kai Fester 9 2006 program. Assistant tutor, Ms. Skinner, literacy class, 1988 to 2006. Tutored at Alta Level 1 class. Tutored in Prison Fellowship and Teachers Empowerment Program. That's in 10th November 2000. Assistant art tutor, became an agent of social change. In 2016, participated in Vision Mission, Turning of the Heart and Soil Project, Wallerfield, March 2015. Participated in Fathers in Action Program, interactive panel on single fathers via the Rise Maximum radio station, June 11 to 2013. Participated in international conference. Yeah. Folks, I could go on and on. This will take up all the time. We are to post this on Facebook
yes,
for you.
This goes on.
Yeah, announcer, broadcaster, gym instructor, infirmary orderly, assistant in the inmate orientation program for new arrivals, tutor, school teacher assistant, alter, tailor shop, welfare assistant. Bonji. Worked at prison sports, worked at Ministry of National Security at Boland Stadium. This gentleman too made use of his time. And you know what I've always said? This is a perfect example of why I would always support mandatory youth service. Here's why. Children leaving school with no academic qualification or vocational skill. But when they end up in prison, they could end up with all these things. There must be a way that a light could go off in somebody's head and say, wait a minute, why wait for them to go to prison to get all these things? And let's channel them in another direction, in a new environment. Don't give them a chance to be available to the people out there who are willing to recruit them, because once they have no skill or qualifications, they cannot get a job. Mm-hmm. And the end result of that would be the domino effect. So here it is, Andrew proving us correct that in a different environment, because Andrew, you left school with any subjects?
No, God. I was thrown out of school.
There you go.
Before I go on, let me just say a pleasant good morning, thanking God for this opportunity once again, God and Natasha, and to our listening audience. Thanking the Commissioner of Prisons for allowing us to be here this morning. Thanking Mr. Agard, Mr. Steele and Ms. Agard for, giving us the opportunity to once again face, this program to share, to encourage and motivate the young people to, stay out there, I just want to say a blessed morning to all our listening audience in the name of Jesus.
Amen. Thank you very much once again. And Andrew, just for those who just joining us, or just hearing your story, you went to prison at the age of 18 for...
No, actually 22 years.
22,
age,
sorry.
yeah.
For,
correction, yeah.
For what crime?
A capital, with namely murder. I made a poor choice in my life at that age. Enter the prison system.
Was it you alone, or who was it with you?
No,
when
I
you
was
made that?
I was charged with 2 other guys. Yeah, they are matter in the court as well too. So.
What ages were they?
I think they were younger than me. They were much younger than me.
But you all got together.
Yeah.
And for those who didn't hear the story, you
embark upon a crime and someone got murdered. The intention wasn't to kill. However, that is what had happened. And we got arrested, entered the prison system, spent 4.5 years on death row. And as you hear my brother here give a detailed picture as to how death row is like and what you feel, and it is on death row that I decided to make that turnaround in my life, that transformation in my life, recognizing that after the crime was committed, I recognized that I had already made a poor choice in my life, and like I was mentioning last time, I couldn't eat, and it took me a while to really, I was really, really sorry for it, because the intention, like I say, wasn't to kill. And it happened. However, I had asked God for opportunity while I was on death row.
Now, Andrew, before you go on, you said the intention wasn't to kill, right? And so for those you didn't hear, this was, you said you and some youngsters, you decided to hijack a car or something? Or something like that, right? I'm sorry for you to relive that, but there are those who didn't hear the story. But you are remorseful, you're remorseful for it. And you never shied away from speaking about it.
No, and I mean, that's why I share my story.
Because
it's not a fame
youngsters
for me.
to you.
I made a poor choice, a bad decision in my life. Like most of the young men who is listening, so I'm not ashamed to share my story and, apologize for the crime that I have done, because I sincerely, I pray to God that, somebody listen, and I'm really sorry for what I have done, right? And because of that, it was much more easier for me to make that transition as to start to make that turnaround in my life. First, I repented, asked God for forgiveness. I forgave society for how they deemed me. I forgave myself. I forgave the victim family, and I started making amends one time. As a matter of fact, I made amends in such a way where I made a promise to Almighty God while I was on death row. And so that promise fulfilled within a matter of days or months, so to speak. And I came down from death row and decided to contribute or give back to society, God. I did that by first praying, fasting, and asking God to give me opportunity in places within the prison system so that I could contribute to give back to society. What was granted to me is, as I came down, I was the school orderly, and I started teaching guys to learn to read and write. I used to do art, so I started teaching guys to paint and to draw for a few years. And then after, MSP was opened, and they sent me up to MSP to continue doing the programs, to teach, to continue the art. While up there, I needed to develop myself more, and hence the reason for all those programs you call, and well, like you say, it will take a whole day to really go into some of those things, but that is the way that I utilize to transform myself and to give back.
You didn't stay idle in prison?
No. One time when I recognized, I said, boy, hey, I don't want another person to end up like me, but I had was to equip myself first. I had was to study, restudy. I had was to accept my Lord and Savior and help utilize His word to guide me.
But Andrew, just to stick up in, do you, for those men and women who are reluctant to try to improve themselves, learn more, and transform themselves, even though they probably know that they're not going to get out of prison, can you understand why someone would feel that way, and why I guess your way is better?
Yeah, but you see, once you accept that you're wrong, you did something wrong. That, as my brother was saying, once you accept that, it becomes much, much more easier for you to forgive yourself first, right? And forgive others. But the thing about it is that's a powerful tool to recognize that you had made a poor choice, you did something wrong, and you accept it. Because you can't blame, as God was saying, we can't blame nobody. We have to blame ourselves. We can't blame parents, even though in some cases, not much in my case, in some cases where we know that there are parents in dysfunctional homes that, see the child going bad and, allow them to continue. They have no grip on the kids, in other words.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that the transition much easier when you accept that you did something wrong. Some people, it take them a long while.
Yes.
Before they could understand, hey, here we're going to do something wrong. Sometimes, the young and the mature, and they're ready to face that yet. I'm not criticizing anybody, but everybody, time and story is different.
Yeah. No, there are some people who say, look, I'm not leaving prison again. Why not leaving prison like in the next 50 years? Why did I go in and qualify to do anything when it's not going to be of any use to me?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, God, because coming down in the vehicle, Narish and I were speaking, and we were saying we believe that we were chosen. We believe that God chose us for a particular purpose. Because listening to our story, we both came from an all right background, all right, and we made poor choices in our life, and it's the choices that have us here. But for some reason, they don't have an ex-Narish and they don't have an ex-Douglas. I'm not saying that they don't have guys that have turned their life around, but individually, uniquely, they don't have. We started the programs officially in the prison system, and that is to not just to give back, but to help ourselves to transform lives and attitudes.
Yes, that is one of the hardest parts of taking accountability for your actions.
Of course.
That's really what it's about.
So when we recognize that, hey, here we're going on, this is the way we're going. Now, and I sit down for days talking, discussing, having positive discussion. Well, what are we going to do? I remember a time on the task force report, deceased Guts Neptune, which is both our mentor, who is now deceased here, and we were asked to contribute to some of the things on the task force report. And we sat down, I don't know if my brother remember, we sat down outside the library at that time, and we put things together in order to contribute to the development of the task force report.
So the task force report actually have interventions from you both.
Some of us, yes.
And the public didn't know that.
We don't toot our own horn. We
expect you to do that because we do expect you to call the newspaper and say, yesterday, Gujarat and I sat with and contributed to the task force report.
Yeah.
The public's supposed to know that by way from the people who engaged you.
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate, and I'm glad you said it, that is not something that should be hidden from the public.
Yeah.
But again, it's the society that we live in.
It's development, and we had to be the change that we want to see. So that is why we embark on so much. As you can see, I brought the evidence there. To see.
As I said. As I said, if it number these pages, I can tell you how many pages we have here and just qualifications. This again says a lot about a different environment to our youngsters, our young men. If we could give them that different environment. My thing is, folks, Gary, PC Thomas, pull that up. I want Andrew and Gurj to comment on this before we speak with the commissioner. My thing is, give them the 5 years in school, let them run up, let them run down, let them run left, right, and center. When 5 years up, and you have no academic qualification or vocational skill, we park in a bus in front of the school, we then you go home. Just like always lock you up when you commit a crime. That's how I see, people might find it draconian. But, you go home, kiss your family goodbye, pack a bag, and come on a bus, meet us so-and-so, and we go in a camp for 2 years. And if it is your parents don't want you to go, then your parent will be held accountable alongside you if you commit a crime. That's how I see it. You could call it mandatory, you could call it compulsory, call it what? I call it saving lives. And cutting the pipeline from school to prison. Blocking off that pipeline. Tell me what you think about this. No, I'm very sorry. Let's show video A. Go to video A, Andrew Douglas. Let's show the folks what Andrew did, some of the work that he did in prison as well, to keep himself occupied. I tell you, this guy was not idle in prison at all, because when we sent out the call for people to volunteer to be part of the radio station, you and Gert applied. You'll tell us about that after. So let's see what Andrew did while he was in prison, folks. This is his gallery. And it's video A, Andrew Douglas Card's video. And we don't know where Shortman is, folks.
I think he said he was having some issues with his internet, but we'll see.
Yeah. And good, when you finish, you hope your fingers tune, you give us a little verse and chorus.
Well, he
And
could take us in as we wait for the video to be played. He could
so Gary to load up.
give us some, pull the strings a little bit, as I put it to God.
You know, this song has a history. And as Dougie say, his transformation started in Death Row. It is when mine started as well. And this song, I heard it first on Death Row. And it is when it all started. It is a song that really entitled My God is Real. And I want people to understand.
And did you learn to play the guitar while in prison?
Yes.
Yes.
Guitar, keyboard, was part of the band. So if those of you, our wonderful listeners out there who know the song, of course, you can hum along with me. You can sing it, of course. It's a wonderful song. And it is one of the songs that holds, a great meaning for me. There are some things I may not know. There are some places I may go, but I am sure of this one thing, that God is real and I can feel Him deep within. My God is real, He's real in my soul. My God is real, for He has washed and made me whole. His love for me is like pure gold. My God is real and I can feel Him in my soul. I cannot tell just how you felt when Jesus took your sins away. But since that day, yes, since that hour, God has been real and I can feel His holy power. My God is real, He's real in my soul. My God is real, for He has washed and made me whole. His love for me is like pure gold. My God is real and I can feel Him in my soul. Some folks may doubt, some folks may scorn, all can desert and leave me alone. But since that day, yes, since that hour, God has been real and I can feel His holy power. My God is real, He's real in my soul. My God is real, for He has washed and made me whole. His love for me is like pure gold. My God is real and I can feel Him in my soul. My God is real and I can feel Him in my soul. Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, of course, to tell the people how much God is real. And because of God, and I want to say this briefly, Mr. Gart and Natasha, of course, even when we didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, we continue progressively. At one time, we didn't know that we would have been resentenced and been freed. We were serving life imprisonment, but we didn't allow that to restrict us. We continue because we know that even though you are placed here, we can still serve God and we can still do something good for someone. And now that we are seeing that light, we know that, as my brother said, there is a purpose.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and that's the voice of Gurjat Sipasad. Life in prison, he was on death row. Now he's here to teach us a lesson. Let's go to Andrew's video, Gary, And let's show the folks what Andrew has been up to in prison, because he has good with his hands too. Very good artist. Let's see it.
These are some of the cards.
The perfect environment to do that. Unfortunately, I didn't have that, and I had to fight it in a different way. It's not easy, because I'm telling you, with all the talk of restorative justice and what happens, there are people out here waiting to remind you that you were in prison.
Yes.
There are people out here waiting to slam that door in your face. My face should be flat by now, be among the doors. But then there are people who will be willing to guide you and help you. But the ones who don't are outnumbering the ones who do.
You have to be able to recognize those who want to help and those who don't.
Yeah, it took me 21 years to figure that out.
Tricky.
That journey for me was an emotional roller coaster, and not everybody out here believes that people can change. Remember that. Go by vision and mission, and they'll protect you from that and give you that start you need. So let's go before we
run out of time.
Before we run out of time, let's go to the video with the police officer. I want you all to comment on this and hear what this police officer posted this, and it went viral.
And before we do that, and I was just going to remind people, please, we have 115 persons on Facebook and only 15 likes. Now, we could do better than that. And also on YouTube, we have 163 people watching and only 19 likes. Please, people, like, subscribe if you're on YouTube, and like and follow if you're on Facebook.
Please do. And remember, those of you on YouTube and Facebook, we're hoping to see you all on the 24th. Remember to call to book your tickets, excuse me, to see the Sound of Freedom. Call, or you send us an email, ask for the booking. You can send it to eyeondependency@gmail.com, EYEON dependency@gmail.com. Now let me read this for you. Students stable at hospital after eating wheat brownie.
Oh, yes.
A 15-year-old schoolgirl is at the hospital after she jumped through a window from her 4th floor apartment last night in Piaco after eating a wheat brownie. She got from another student at her school earlier the day. The teen began hallucinating before jumping. Folks, once again, how many times we have warned you all? We have been warning you all about brownies for the last 10 years. That this is going to happen to our people and our children.
And the kind of harm it does,
And
especially
the kind
to
of,
young people.
That's right. Okay, don't worry. Let's go to the police officer video, Gary. Please, folks, again, I am begging. What more can we say?
Talk to your young people, your children, about these drugs and ensure that they are aware of the harms that and the risks to using these drugs. They're doing it because they're young people and they want to take risks and they want to follow and they want to, join in with what is going on. But they are better prepared to resist that pressure if they are informed. That is the key.
Do not take brownies, cookies, or any marijuana-infused product from anyone, please. They are doing it to experiment on you as well. Let me read this again. A 15-year-old schoolgirl is at the hospital after she jumped through a window from her fourth-floor apartment last night in Piaco after eating a weed brownie she got from another student at her school earlier in the day. The teen began hallucinating before jumping through the window. Folks, learn about these products before you ingest. Please.
Marsha on Facebook says she drank weed punch a creme and hallucinated all night and day, never me again. This is an adult.
Right.
So you can imagine what that will do to a child.
What else you all will need?
So this is where we as parents have to come in and take that active role. Talking to our children. Times have changed now. And this is where we have to come in and everything we have to talk to them about. Even in the school system, things passing through.
Yes.
No, it could just come like if you brought a slice of cake.
Yes.
No one knows, you understand, no one knows what is in it. Now, this is again, choices, consequences, because this very set, let's say this child, it was a worst case scenario. What would have happened to the individual, again, as a child, who, had given it to her? What would have been your situation then?
Correct.
Because they don't know how to eat it. And they don't understand that you cannot eat a whole brownie. You cannot drink a whole bottle of marijuana punch. The people don't tell you what they're putting in it. And again, we went ahead and decriminalized marijuana in Trinidad and Tobago. And people, and that's a whole different discussion.
Yes, it is.
But there's something that needs to, they need to go back to the books for this.
There are dangers that came out of that.
There are people who selling this stuff and not understanding the damage they're doing to our children. Guy, play the video for me, please, because their parents may say, God, who giving their children this to go in school and sell to,
Yes.
These worthless people, disgusting, living off of people, trying to poison our children with this rubbish that you're pushing on them. Go to the video, Gary. Listen to this puzzle.
Good afternoon, all. And I'm here again, and it's another evening of discuss. I would say that for want of a better word, and I can't find it because that's what it is. It's only the 4th day of school for the new school term, and it has begun. The madness have begun with these children. What's happening? Parents, what are we doing? Why are we not stepping up to the plate as we should? We need to do much better than that. And I don't know, sometimes I'm left for words, I'm honest with you. Tell me why the police have to be policing your children morning and evening to go to school. And when they get from school, we have to police them back to get home quickly and out of the streets from Lyman. Why? Some of these would more. It has begun. Good afternoon, all, and I'm here again, and it's another evening of discuss. I would say that for want of a better word, and I can't find it because that's what it is. It's only the 4th day of school for the new school term, and it has begun. The madness have begun with these children. What's happening? Parents, what are we doing? Why are we not stepping up to the plate as we should? We need to do much better than that. And I don't know, sometimes I'm left for words, I'm honest with you. Tell me why the police have to be policing your children morning and evening to go to school. And when they get from school, we have to police them back to get home quickly and out of the streets from Lyman. Why? Some of these children, I'm honestly left with some of these children. When you look through their bags and the attitude that comes with it, what's happening? Where have manners and respect, morals gone? Where? Are we lost? Do we not know that this is what we need to raise the nation's future children? And that's the frightening thing. They are the future. And if this is the manner or the attitude in which you would carry about themselves, well, then our future is dark. Parents, we need to step up to the plate. Our children are lawless, in dire need of mannerism, have lost respect for everything and everyone, those in authority, their teachers, everyone. And you as parents, we need to step up to the plate and do better. I had to spend the evening yesterday, myself and some other officers, colleagues, at the Sani Grande Enhanced Health Center and then at the hospital with students from a particular school in Sani Grande who received significant injuries to both of them. What is this, a war zone? Both students, when we got there, covered in blood. The third day of school? The third day? What is this? And when the police act or we get involved, you guys start to question it and you get upset. But if we are not there, what happens? Will they kill themselves? What will happen? We need to do better than that. Speak to your children. Please. This place is in a mess. Our children are not listening. And we need as parents to speak to them. Don't think that it's the job of the police. Don't think it's the job of the teachers or the principals at the school. Don't do that. As parents, that's your job. We need to do better than that, parents. Come on. Wrong start. Today is only day 4 of school. And if you look at the news across the country, fights all over already. Why? What is this? Come on, parents, we need to do better than that. Set our young men and young women straight. Do not leave it or expect it to be the job of the police. That's your job.
Yes, and for those who are asking, yes, PC Darian Thomas is the officer who has been rewarded for delivering babies. He's a motorcycle officer and he delivered some babies recently or while on the road. So yes, it is one and the same.
Now imagine you get a police officer to sit on TikTok and speak his mind. You could see he was holding back. I'm sorry the video froze, but thank God the audio was clear.
Yeah.
But I was looking at him and you could see he was getting choked up at some point, talking about.
You could hear it
no,
in his
Mr. God,
voice.
you were just saying off air, and it reminded me of the guy who sold the actor Natasha. He was sentenced recently to some years in prison too. This brother from The Wire.
Oh, Michael K. Williams.
Michael K. Williams, a guy
They found
sold
the guy
him
who sold him the heroin.
the drugs, killed him. He was sentenced recently, and you were just saying,
right?
Yeah, so choices and consequences, because we're talking about the young lady that jumped from that first story.
Yes.
What if she had lost her life?
Yep.
What was going to take place? What was going to happen to the individual that gave it to her? Was it going to be another story again, like Douglas or Narish? Because this is what happens. They might find it innocent. They might look at it as being innocent. Here, what now? I bring in some brownies is nothing. But you would never expected that to happen.
Yeah.
Look what happened to that individual.
Yep.
Jumped 4-story, God.
Could have died.
They
And
could
let
have
me know
died.
what do you think?
First, I want to thank that officer for stepping up, because a lot of people that see things happening and just turn a blind eye in this wrongs. But, I just want to say something, for the past few years, I've been looking and watching, and after I read my scriptures and thing, and it's not just in Trinidad and Tobago, it's all over the world. And it's, I could afford to say, based on scriptures, that prophecy is being fulfilled. Children disobedient to the parents, you can't talk to them. I was, at least I still was to humble myself in the presence of my mom when she still speak to me. I'll go behind her back and do something. But now they answering your back up and thing, and they don't recognize that.
Children cursing their parents,
of course.
boy.
And even in the system, some don't, they need to respect the officers because they have the best interests of you at heart. And the thing about it is, when you look around, everything in the script here is coming to pass. So, instead of, we have to guide our kids. We have to tell them, we have to instill the word of God in them. I know they won't want to hear, but you never know when a person will find themselves. We found ourselves in the system, and we give God praise and thanks for that. And we're working feverishly to help transform the lives of individuals, not just in the system, but out there. That's why we go out doing motivational speaking and mentoring. But parents need to get a grip of the children. Are we losing it?
Before we go to Nourish, I just wanted to share this comment from Jennifer on YouTube, which I think is also important. She says we all have to work together in putting our children in order, because most of the time parents don't know and are not aware of what our children are doing when they attend school.
Agreed.
It is a community. It is all of our responsibility. We can't turn a blind eye, as Douglas said. When these things are going down, if you see a child going the wrong way, some adult needs to put themselves in place and help.
Village stories as a child.
We keep talking about that.
No,
but
you're seeing a difference. You see a child going to school and they mightn't even tell you morning, God. They wouldn't even tell you morning, good afternoon. Now, if you look at Narish and Douglas, their mannerism, they are always polite, disciplined. No matter where they are, the person, and they see an officer or anyone, they would say good morning. Always pleasant.
Yeah.
And, we could attest to the both of them, and there are many others as well. So you're seeing them back then, to, compared to the youths now. A whole different story.
Whatever became a parent? What happened to parenting? Because I noticed, before we go to good, quickly, I raised this issue here one morning. Natasha and I, we were coming here, stopped by the pet shop. This lady coming with two children holding on either side. I opened the door for them, and they just walked past me like the doorman. And neither the children or her said good morning. 2 days ago, heading across Kathleen Street to between Kathleen and Bonds Road, that traffic light there. So we got the green, and we were about to drive off. The truck in front stopped. And then I say, well, why did he stop? Because I'm in the middle of an intersection, only to see a mother and grandmother and two children crossing the road. So I put on a glass and said, ma'am, this is the perfect opportunity to teach your children how to cross the traffic light. I know how my mother make me. My father, everybody, she them in front of them two children.
Yes.
Where do you think it coming from? It's them. So I want to know where that gone. Where did it go? We know what we are accustomed to. Good, what you thought about what the officers said.
In extension to what my brother Douglas said, of course, all of you, it is something like a cliche now that it begins in the home. That is a cliche. It begins in the home. So we're asking the question, if it begins in the home, where are the parents? What exactly are the parents doing? Now, we know we have a lot of single parents and so on. You have to bring up the children.
Natasha have another term for that.
yeah,
Single
absent
parent.
fathers. That's
Absent father. Well, thank you, a better word.
Yeah.
Absent father. So now you put it on the man's shoulder.
Yes.
The father is not home.
Correct.
So you're blaming the man now.
No, we're not blaming, but we're describing it as
Yes, and that is
absent
quite
father
correct.
home,
That is
because we
quite
continue
correct.
as a single mother home, but
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
really absent father.
Yes, it is.
home.
The fathers are absent. So now I'm saying, like, for example, I remember when as a little boy growing up, East Indians, you see an old person, the Hindus, you have to say
The respect, yeah.
If I cross 100 times, I have to do that. Sometimes I will go wrong because I get fed up doing it.
Yes.
So sometimes my mom will send me to the grocery. I say, why it took so long? I say, no, I think. Because simply not to say this, right? So the point I'm trying to make is that it begins, yes, in the home, but we still have to consider the neighbor.
Yes.
You are going to teach your children the right thing, but what about the neighbor? Something the children also follow the neighbor. So we also, Dougie say, it takes a community. We all know it takes a community to build a family. Absolutely. And that is what we need to go back to the old school. And I'm going to say this briefly. We are saying, and I know you're going to oppose it, the Bible says, spare the rod and you shall.
Don't spare the rod and
No. Let's
I know that,
there,
but I'm telling you, I wasn't beaten, but I was flogged because when I do something wrong, I was disciplined.
You weren't beaten, you were flogged,
discipline.
And you're defending that, Nourish?
No, I'm saying
saying
in the absence of that discipline, that rod, a lot of things are happening today, and we need to examine that.
But you know there are people who will challenge that, eh?
Of course.
Yes. Of course.
Yes. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Our Dependency, and we are speaking. Let's take a couple calls quick, Gary. 622-3937. Hi, Zena. Thank you very much for dropping your note here. Great program as usual. And Zena, we hope to see you on the 24th at IMAX. Please secure your ticket. Remember to send us that email. If you're just joining us, we have Gurjada Sipasad and Andrew Douglas alongside each other in studio here, of course, accompanied by Ms. Agard and Mr. Steele.
I think from the time we start to talk about beating children, we have given up. We have given up. We are throwing our hands in the air. The only thing left to do is to beat some sense into these children. That cannot be the answer.
Talking to your children is very important.
Cannot.
6223. Hello, good morning.
Good
morning. Not bad.
Hello to your panel. I can't call all of you at the same time, but you are doing a fantastic job, and I'll just give a brief to of what I think. I think I'll always stress the importance of working on oneself. Most time we have issues with ourselves, we have to deal with. You cannot go to somebody else or somebody else, wherever, you will deal with who you are first. I mean, to me, everything is a factor to play, because when you have a music is very powerful, it molds minds. And once we produce a particular type of music, it shapes our children's future. Like what you guys stated, if we show our future, I will say our future is very dim. It feels negative, but that's the reality that we are at right now. Showing us is a crisis, and if we don't take the steps to change this crisis, we will crash as a nation. If we let it crash, in the country crash, it shows that we have totally well. We can get ourselves very serious and well by what we don't, we feel a lot of destruction with our society, which we're seeing as now.
Thank you.
I'm to the panel.
Oh, you're welcome. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you doing?
All right, cool morning.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Dr. Shah. Good morning, Mr.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Douglas.
Or Toronto in the house. How you doing?
How are you guys doing?
Good. All right,
yeah,
fine.
I am listening to your program. Hey, God, listen. This marijuana thing is a very, it's something bothering me, eh? You understand? Because when these young fellas take this thing, I see a gentleman who live on the pavement and walking on cars, walking on cars, because he take these things that because he can't walk on the ground. The other come some Judy. So they're taking these things why? You understand? And parents. You don't have to have an officer to come on TikTok and tell you that about the children. God, I believe in because I get licked when I was small. Did it kill me? No. It disciplined me. And the same thing Mr. Sipasa was saying just now. When you meet people in the village, before you pass them, you have to tell them good morning. These are the things I grew up in. And don't let them my grandfather get to know that, because I'll get rich too for that. We missing that, and I'm glad national service is a very important thing. I'm glad you raised it, because I heard people mention that all the time. National service is very important. You understand? So to all the officers of the prison, morning to you guys, Mr. The Commissioner, morning to you guys, morning to you guys, because I love to listening.
All right, thank you very much. And YouTube, we hope you're hearing us better now. Yes, okay. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Natasha, and guest there.
Morning.
Morning.
I want to compliment the gentleman 100%. Wonderful. Guys, I can remember that earlier in your program, in the early days of your program,
I ask you, when a guy is incarcerated and you have programs in the prison, why don't he take part in the programs? And I think you tell me you cannot force people to take part in the programs. And I say that is nonsense. Once you're in a prison, you're under the care of the state. And what the state have inside of there, you have to participate. That is what I told you. And I want to condemn the gentleman. See how far he reached? He must have about 30-something certificate, as far as I listen to you.
That, yes?
Yeah. I listen to him. Very good. Look how he make use of his time. People that go inside there, spend 10 years, and within the 10 years, they ain't touch a book. They ain't touch a book, and they come back out the same way. And the reason why they come back out the same way is because they don't want to learn. They didn't learn out here, and they're going in there and didn't learn. And the authorities inside, they're not forcing them. They're not forcing them to say, listen, we have a program and you have to take part in it. That maybe that could make a change of his life. But when he calling the shots and people yielding to it, it makes no sense. And a thing I hear you say, God, which I agree with. You see that bus, you say, pull up by the schools and take everyone and put inside of there. When they don't want to learn, we kind them somewhere else to learn. If the parents vex, that is the business. We have to take the bull by the horn. If we've been doing that for years, like in Bogota and them countries and them, if we've been doing that for years, we'd have a better society today. Put them to learn something and force them to learn something, because they're not learning a thing. Thank you.
Mr. Steele, he talk about forcing people in prison, but it's not possible. The prison don't do that, right?
Our mandate is simple, right? When you commit a crime, and as they say, they send it to prison as punishment, not for punishment, it is known. Our job is they're taking the worst from the society, sending them to prison. And our job is to send them through that rehabilitation process. Now, really and truly, we cannot force anybody, right? There are programs department within the prison that will afford you change to be able to enroll in certain programs to help you. There are life skills, there are programs that will help you. Skills, as Douglas pull out his big briefcase with certificates, right? There are things that we do in the prison and people don't understand the importance of the prison. When we take these people, guide them through the rehabilitation process, we help them in the process that when they are reintegrated back into society, they are better people, right? Just recently we was talking about a person who came out of prison, and because of a conviction, they were fired from the job, right? Because now he was a whole ex-criminal. And, there was a whole debate on it. But our job, as we said, you give us a mandate. We take these people, they come into prison, we help them. We talk about Douglas Narish, the face of rehabilitation. There's not much we could do again. They had that standard. Our job is not to judge and to criticize, but our job is to take these people and help them. So when we send them back out there, they are change agents.
So yes, they are not forced. Now, there are many officers in the programs department. You will go to individual ones. You're taking part in this program, no miss. We don't leave it like that now. We'll give it some time, but we'll make a circle and we'll come back again. Are you interested in this program? We're not forcing, but we'll ask you. We're giving you the choice. So the choice is on the individual to better themselves. And we have seen here, so many certificates that both of them have, and there are many others as well. Narish learned to play music in prison as well, and there are many others who can tell of the story. So you have to say, the programs department, a job well done.
Yes, well done. And Gary, get an applause button for the programs department, please. And let's take another call. In the meantime, 622-3937. Hello, good morning.
Oh, very good morning, very good morning. All the shining lights you have there again this morning with us. Thank you so much. But
you're welcome.
Yes, I want to speak to the police officer who had done the video. Now, I was born in a time when midwife would deliver you. And once a midwife delivers you, that's your mother. And if he needs any more conviction to know that he's a father, he is a person who delivered babies. What I want to say is, where the children are concerned and parenting, no one ever parent alone. Never. There's equipment in your house called a television back then. That was a parent in your house. Now we have the social media and all of that. We all fail them. We are all parents. The wise people told us how many centuries ago it takes a village to raise a child. And that's no joke. We all fail them. We all have to understand when a little child leaves its house, the person you see before you after is another parent too. We don't want to hear it, we don't want to believe it, because we live in a time now where all I want to do is draw my salary and buy my car and that's it. Every teacher is a parent. So whatever you can do for these children, you do it in your capacity, knowing that they are all our children and we all parenting together. Nobody parents alone. Now, you see this thing about beating children, I don't know now, but I think we should change the word from beat to spank, because people feel that when you're beating a child, you have to beat it like a snake. But maybe we have to change the word to spank, who knows. But nonetheless, they are all our children, and we are all responsible for them. So, prison police officer, don't despair. I can imagine when you have it firsthand to deal with. Don't despair. Approach it as, this is my child that I am saving. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you very much. We take one more. We're coming close to wrap-up time, folks. We have major news at 12 coming up with Janelle Wilson, so stay tuned for that. Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Yes. Have you all ever considered, there's training, there are training for almost everything that I could think about. Every time you look at when you look at newspapers, wherever, you see there's training for this, training for that. Have you all ever considered training for parents? Training people to become parents, to become good parents?
Good one, sister.
Those kind of courses are available. I think the Ministry of Social Development runs parenting courses all the time.
Yeah, but it's something we need to discuss. We probably need to have the ministry in here to find out how that is rolled out, because it's quite clear that there's a lack of that now,
Right, and just to add that, yes, you may have that, but it's not in your face. It's not in your face.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I've been seeing people, but the word is escaping me now, where you can sit down with children and you become their, like, oh boy, you as the older one, have a one-on-one with these children, helping them as they grow up into teenage. There's a name for it, but I just escaping me now.
A mentor?
Right?
Mentorship?
Right. Mentor, right. So I'm just asking, is that something that you all could zoom in on, so we get persons in communities or all over who have had the experience? Sometimes when you talk to people now, whether it's children or adults, just like you said, when the person was crossing and you tried to, give them a little education, they didn't want to hear. From the time you talk to anybody now, they tell you, and you give them a little like the history, how you were brought up, they tell you it's a long time thing.
All right, Kola, yes, but we have to go now, right? Because we have the news coming up, but thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you. Gentlemen, closing remarks quickly. Good, we start with you.
Okay, I just want to say thanks again, of course, to you guys, especially the Commission of Prison, to allow us to be here. Mr. Gart, Ms. Natasha, of course, Mr. Gard, Mr. Steele. Just want again to let the young people know that you don't necessarily have to come to prison to be constructive, to be educated. All the opportunities out there, take it. My brothers, my sisters, do not allow yourself to be destroyed by what you have chosen. Thank you very much.
Andrew?
Because of the time pressed, I share the same sentiment as Gujarat mentioned, and thank you, Gart and Natasha. Thank the Commissioner of Prisons for allowing us to be here to share.
Ms. Gart?
Thank you very much, Gart, Natasha, for having us here.
Until next time.
Until next time.
We have more work to do.
Yes,
and
we
the work continues. All right, folks. So, thank you so much again. And remember the solution for me: park the bus. Let them board the bus. Because having 10 and 15 subjects in prison, still they have an obstacle to cross when they come out.
Indeed. And my solution would be not to beat children. No matter what you call it, it's violence. All the same. That is not any way to instruct anybody. Violence is not the answer. Right.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a great week. Remember, folks, WhatsApp 756-6337 to book your tickets for the screening of The Sound of Freedom on Republic Day. All right? Keep in touch. Take care. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from Port of Spain, Trinidad, this is the most influential name in radio, I-95.5. Live local coverage you can depend on. This is News Center 5 at noon.